Welcome to jobskillshare.org. In this video, we are going to replicate some of the skills that you are learning from our recorded live sessions that many of our members really like to watch and learn from it. And then we tell them to replicate the same skills in your sandbox. And because in March 2022, we have added a sandbox solution for all membership, so this is now available to every single member who become a member after March 2022. They have the sandbox access. So basically what I'm talking about is in our IT support technical skills V1.0 course, which is our technical course, our assumption for our members are that they have finished the IT fundamentals part 1, which is 21 hours course, and then part 2, which is another 8 hours. And that's so this means that you would have done a lot of basics before you get to this course. But if you want to learn some skills very quickly for your job interview, or maybe you're already working in the job and you want to do things a little quicker, of course I'm not saying to still skip fundamentals. You cannot do that if you want to learn things correctly. But this is for people who want to do things a little faster and just to get things going for their work environments. So when we start this course, as you can see, this is a very good course. This is a technical course, so everything in here is going to be related to technical skills that are being used in the companies as we speak right now. So you learn and you go and implement it inside the companies if they are using something similar. So the goal from this is to replicate a lot of things that you are learning in this course. So the first module in this course is basically information. So you really can go and start replicating a lot of things because this is the information that you need to know to basically do things. So or to understand things later on. So most of the people, maybe if they have done fundamentals somewhere else or from our courses, they may just skip over this, but this is a kind of reminder that you still need to know this, even if you have to watch this video again from a different source. So the first one is just information. The second video, virtualization training for entry-level help desk. Okay, this is a good one. And how can we now go into our practice lab sandbox solution to replicate what you have learned in these videos? Is there a capability in JSS? Yes, in JSS there is a capability for people who are premium members. They have a lot of capabilities. People who are using sandbox, they may not be able to do that in sandbox, because if I show you in the sandbox, let's say for example this is the one that we give out, you can see everything is kind of connected from clients. So it's like a full sandbox with everything in it, but you're not going to be able to do virtualization over here, right? Because this is not a bare metal access. This is an access on a server and a client level, which you're going to learn a lot of things from it, but it cannot go beyond that. It cannot go a step below. So what I'm talking about is you go into a server, you go into a client, and you can learn the things that's on the server and the client, and anything features related like file services, Active Directory, things like that, you will be able to learn, but you cannot go beyond it. Now, you can install a Hyper-V, but it's just not gonna work. So let's say you're watching a video over here, and in this module we're also telling people that this is just for you to know the knowledge. You really don't need to know this stuff. A lot of this hands-on. This is for people who have this mindset that I still want to do it hands-on. Then of course we will say that you either need your home lab for this, or you need a premium access so you can get into some of the Hyper-V stuff, virtualization and things like that, which you shouldn't be spending too much time, because this is an advanced skill and you just need to know how things are working. That's it. Once you understand the concept, you move on to something that is important for IT support. So in this, if you want to get practical with just getting things installed on this server, you can do it. I mean, you can go to this server, you can open Server Manager, and just to get that feeling, you can go to Manage, and go to Roles, and then click Next, Next, and Next. And here you can click on Hyper-V and add this feature, but it's gonna say that Hyper-V cannot be installed, the processor does not have required virtualization capabilities. And that is what we were talking about, that some of the premium labs have this enabled on the Rails server. So when you go back to the premium labs, then yeah, you can kind of find the server labs from here, from Microsoft Server Labs, and there are different ones, and you can turn on the retired labs, which basically in JSS we don't call this expired or anything. It's a great labs too. You can go into this virtualization data center. But again, if you look at this right here, this is for people who want to become sysadmins and people who want to go ahead of help desk. So you're not going to be working on ports or security of this stuff. None of this is going to help you at this point. So you can get in and just kind of play around with things, but you should move on from it very quickly. Now, coming back to the sandbox, to the real world training, why are we doing this video? We are doing this video to replicate the first introduction, the recorded live session day 1, which is freely available to the public as well. If you are a part of YouTube, you can go to JobSkillShare YouTube channel, search for the playlist IT support, free IT support training for entry-level IT professionals. Don't forget to subscribe. And then this is the first video that I'm going to try to replicate some of the things from. If you go to the video, there's this timeline, and basically the first parts are just kind of introductions, and just because if you're new, you may want to learn something from other people. But what we're talking about is mainly here actual skills for IT support concept, workgroup versus domain practice. Of course, that goes into that, but we're not going to be practicing on that anymore. What is a server? So this is what you're going to achieve from Sandbox and from this video. We're going to try to replicate some of the things that is in this video, so then you can use your lab from this video. So you're not just watching this video anymore. If you have access, you can actually start working and replicating skills right away. So the first video, if you watch the whole video, let's go ahead and just click on it. It says ignore the first 23 minutes. You can still watch it, but those are related to past stuff, right? Past access and things like that. Ignore the another things that we give out. This is something that we give out to our IT Pro program members. If you're interested in more of like that type of mentorship, then just go for IT Pro mentorship, where we will be mentoring you then. And learn the technical skills from this training. What I mean by this is that when you're watching this video, learn when it actually starts about workgroup versus domain and things like that. So of course, I'm not going to talk about extreme basics, because that's what I am talking about, that when you take this course, we're not teaching you extreme basics anymore. We cannot waste that kind of time. That's why we have fundamental part 1 and part 2 course in our platform you should be taking. So from this lecture, you already know about workgroup versus domain. In part 1, you also went over module workgroup versus domain. We did cover that in our fundamental course. So if you're using the Sandbox lab and you turn on all these labs, how can you practice to kind of understand the workgroup versus domain networks? So from your training, you know that a domain joined machines or a domain controller with Active Directory is something that people use to manage computers, users, and anything that it comes under that. Those are managed type of networks. So in this case, if you're trying to do this practically, and how do you learn this, you can basically come to your domain controller, and if you want to know basically the topology of this lab, you can go to Sandbox, and let's go ahead and open this Sandbox. And then here you can open the lab, which I already opened, and here is the image of this topology of this lab. As you can see, the PLAB DC01 is the Windows 2019 domain controller. So when you watch the session, you know that we talked about some terms in a very non-technical way. We said that the domain controller is the king of this network. So in this lab, what is the domain controller with Active Directory that we are telling that this is a king machine? So let's just open this diagram here in this lab. As you can see, PLAB DC01 is the one that has an Active Directory, because if you look at it, it says domain controller. So if you would have went through my lecture and the video and the full session, now at this point you should have a very clear idea of what a domain controller is, what is Active Directory, and we did a lengthy talking on that. In this lab, when it says domain member, so this king is controlling with AD inside this server, this domain member, this server is connected to this AD. Standalone means this is not managed. This is the one that we talked about, that this one we cannot manage it. Why? Because this is on Workgroup. It cannot be managed because the AD, the username and password, the powers that you have is not working on this because it doesn't know anything about it. So we need to add this server to this AD for it to become domain managed, right? And then similarly, if you look at these Windows 10 machines, this one, we know it's an AD. Why? Because it's a domain member. These two, we know they cannot be managed. Why? Because they're standalone. They're workgroup machines. So if we go back to our lab and you want to do this practical now, you want to learn this practically, you're going to go to domain controller. Now, all of you know now how to get to the domain controller, because as soon as you open this lab, the domain controller is there for you. You're going to open the server manager and then you're going to click on tools. In the tools, you're going to click on Active Directory users and computers, and that is the Active Directory right here. That's managing everything. Do you want to confirm that what we're talking in the image is correct? You can come to computers and you can see, if you refresh, and it should be there, there's a refresh, MD01 in the image, that we say that it's being controlled. Why? Because it's a part of Active Directory. PLAB Win10 is being controlled by this Active Directory. Why? Because it's a part of domain Active Directory. Now, if you want to test this from a Windows 10 machine, assume that you don't have access to Active Directory, which most likely 99% of the time, if you're an entry-level IT professional, you're not going to get access directly to a server like this, and it's not going to be that easy for you to just open everything like that. So who is basically giving you access? The person who is the manager in this company, or the sysadmin, whoever is in control, whoever hired you, went to Active Directory just like that, and then they of course hired you, and then whatever way they add people, they have to add you in Active Directory if it's a Windows network. So that person came over here and then they clicked on new account, and let's say your name is help desk. Okay, so I'm gonna add you as a help desk in this practice lab environment. As you can see, I am not doing things that supposed to be done, resetting password for a user and everything. I'm just adding you just to show you somebody created your account as a help desk. So this person created you in this account, but of course, if you are going to be using this account in PLAB Win10, can you use it? Yes, you can. You can click on this little key icon, and I'm going to show you how to kind of navigate between these labs as well now. When you click on this icon, it's going to remove that auto login. Now, what is that? If I don't remove that and I just click on, let's say something happens to this machine and I restart it, what's going to happen? It's going to always go to this administrator profile. Now, you learned from fundamental course, how do you find the profiles? You know that now from a CMD, if you type who am I, you can find out which domain are you part and who is logged into this session. So you can see I'm an administrator over here, so I don't want to log in as administrator. But then how do I log off? If in practice lab right now, if you do sign out like that, what's going to happen? It's just going to show you the screen, right? And then you need to log back in. Then what happens? If you go back, you click on it, nothing happens. So you come over here, you try to connect back. So what happened? Automatically, it's going to go back to administrator profile and it's going to try to log you in. Now, of course, in the companies, things are not set up like that. In the companies, things are set up this way. You click on this little key icon. What this says that auto login to this device is off. So now if I do this connection again, what's going to happen? It's going to go back out there and it's going to try to connect to administrator, but it's not using its auto log on. So for you to log in and to practice in real world, you're going to come over here and then you're going to now use the help desk account that you just created. You're going to log in with that. Now in practice lab, this is going to be the behavior of this application that is being used on top of connecting to these machines. If you really want to get a true experience, then you're not going to be using this method. I mean, you can click on this little auto log on, you can turn it on and off. Let's say I turn this on and I just click OK, and I just log in like that. This is going to automatically log you in again to the administrator account. If you disable it, then that's not going to do it. But every time you log in, it's not a true experience, because a true experience is basically when in a real world environment, if you have something like that, it's going to be basically like this. When you click on this little icon right here, switch to console desktop. This is a direct kind of like a connection, what you're going to see in front of that user. So you see a screen changed a little bit. So if I go back and change the account now and I log into that account with the help desk username and password and I log in, you see it's working. So that's, you need to understand this, that in a practice lab, they make it easy for you to use something like this additional connection so you can get to it, this computers very quickly. But again, it's using a remote desktop services and other type of things that can give you those type of errors. And at this point, you may not be able to resolve those type of issues. Why? Because you have not done Active Directory stuff, group policy things. We could try to fix that, but again, we're going to move into something that is away from just getting that idea that, you know, what we just did. We just added a user in Active Directory and using the same machine. I can add, let's say, 5 users over here, and I can go back to this machine and I can log into those users. But you need to make sure you use the console access, okay, not the remote desktop. So if you click on this, you can switch back to remote desktop service. If you click on it, see right here, switch to console, switch to remote desktop. So you need to be on the console if you want to get the true experience, to just see how everything is working. So the idea of management is this. Can I do the same thing now on a workgroup computer? So let's go ahead and try that. If we go to this Windows 10 PLAB, which we know it's a standalone computer, PLAB 101. How do you know if it's a standalone? If I want to quiz you, you're going to go to Systems, and in Systems, you're going to scroll down and click on System Info. So you know it's a workgroup computer. It's not joined to the computer. If I don't give you the image right now, practically this is how you need to tell me that this machine is not on a domain, just from a GUI method, very simple method, no fancy stuff, no commands, nothing. So you go back. Can you verify by going to computers? Is this machine a part of Active Directory? It's not a part of Active Directory. We can clearly see that. So if you want to go back to the PLAB, we know this is not a part of a domain. Can I just go and switch this to console to get a true experience? I'm going to do that. And that is how the laptop is going to look in front of me, or the desktop. Okay, yeah, there's not even an account right now. So I cannot use the help desk account because I cannot even switch to a domain over here. So you can see there's only admin account over here. So what I need to do, if I want to manage this, if I want to put all these policies on this machine, which is not being managed, I need to first put this on a domain. So to do that, let's go ahead and log back in. And if you do the remote services again, if you're lazy like me, I'm gonna click back on remote services and look, it got me in, it logged me in, right? And if I want to put this back on a domain, what do? I go to change settings. I go to change right now, and I know I can type the practice labs domain because we're a part of that domain, right? This computer can still get connected to that domain controller. Why? Because it's in the same network. So if you have not done fundamentals, this is where your fundamentals will be tested. How do you know? I'm going to do ipconfig over here, and I know that I'm part of 192.168.0 .5, and if I go to my domain controller and I go to CMD and I do IP config, look, I'm doing something extremely basic. If you don't know this stuff, then of course you need to go back to the fundamental courses. So here, our domain controller is 192.168.0.1, while this is .5, but can I ping our domain controller IP address 192.168.0.1? I'm able to ping that. So I can come over here and I can find out what is my Active Directory domain. I can come over here and click on my Active Directory. Our Active Directory domain is what? practicelabs.com. Now I want to manage this. I want to be a part of this king, right? I want to be following that king. This computer will be managed now. We need to take control of that machine. So if I type practicelabs.com and I type enter, look what happens. I get a username and password. So let's use our help desk account. Will this allow us to do that? If I put my username and password, look, I am already joined to the machine. Even though I am joined to the machine, but this help desk account still doesn't have too much rights to do anything. It can join the computer to a domain right now. You see, even with the domain user access. So if I restart this machine now, and I go back, we go to users, and if I log in with this help desk account, it can still not do a lot, because it will be able to log in, but it needs to be a domain administrator. Later on, you're going to learn that from an Active Directory session, where we need to then start using a little bit more rights in this area, because if we want to manage this machine more now, we need to. But if you try to connect to a using a remote desktop services like this, so what's going to happen? It's going to log into an admin account. Now, because this software is designed to make things easy for you, that doesn't mean you need to stick with this. You can click on this little auto log on, and if I click on in again, if I try to log back in again, you see I cancel that auto log on here, and I try to click on this little connect icon, and look what happened. Now we don't only see admin, we see other users as well. Because we added this machine to the domain controller Active Directory, if you come over here in your computer sections, if you refresh, we just added this. So now this win, oh, I just turned it off, oh my god. Okay, so anyways, that win 101, I didn't do this one, okay. Win 101 is basically part of that domain, and we can now join this and we can manage this, right? So, but if you want to do a true experience, again, what do? You need to go to the console. Once you understand this, how to do this from here, of course, then you need to use the remote desktop services, because it's faster. But for now, if you're just learning this management stuff, then use the console, because you're getting that true logon, and you're not going to have a lot of issues. If you use the remote desktop services, of course, you're going to come across things that we have not covered, and in sandbox services, Practice Lab support and JSS support do not cover anything that is not in a part of a video. So let me correct that. Practice Lab will not support anything in this video, because it's not a part of a lab, premium labs. It's just a sandbox. So you must follow everything that I'm doing in this video if you want your experience to be better. In our next video, we are going to talk about the next skill that we have discussed, and most likely we're going to discuss what is a server and a client, and we're going to basically just talk about the server and client services, so then you understand why people use servers and why people use clients like Windows 10 operating systems. Thank you so much.